Hello, Sprock here, and this is 1908 of the game Crowds in 2020. So, last we left off, I had just executed a good but not quite brutal stab on my ally France, with which I've been allied since 1901, and my stab was kinda ruined by the support to Ruhr by Munich, and with Russia in Prussia, even though I sorta had repaired the relationship with Russia and stated that I wouldn't move against him. This move by Russia with this move by Italy seems to signify that France, Russia and Italy are teaming up to strip me away of some centers like Berlin and impeding me the solo, while Spain is doing everything it can to stop me from advancing in the West. My only hope basically is that these efforts are not coordinated and that they're acting each and every one of them on their own and not together communicating, because if they have forged a large alliance to stop me, I can't really do anything about it. With also my Austrian Janissary, which has become completely separated from me because he destroyed his fleet in Western Mediterranean, and with this army stranded in Greece, he has no hope of helping me and I have no hope of helping him, so my relationship with Austria is over. Austria did contact me in 1908 and he said I was right, that I told him to protect Tunis, and basically I told him my prediction of the upcoming developments of the match. Basically told him he was gonna probably be eliminated by Russia and I would have been very impeded in my effort to invade Spain now that I don't have the southern help. So my expectation for this turn was that the rest of the world, after I had so damaged France, would be of some sort of condemnation of my actions, not based on the stab and the treachery, but on my overwhelming power in the north now. And what I found out is that actually none of them really cared, and that was basically their downfall, their real downfall in this game. Because if they had teamed up and helped France, or at least impeded me in my efforts, I couldn't have soloed even with my best tactical moves at this point. So, as I said in last year, I had to implement my best diplomatic effort to convince every power which I could convince in any way possible and exploit any psychological leverage that I have, any read I have on them, to make them do as I say, or at least not fight me. And the first one I tried to manipulate was, or at least convince him, was Italy, because I really need him to stop protecting Ruhr and not to take Berlin. So since this has been my most important diplomatic year and I did a very good job, I think, also accompanied by some maybe scarce insight in the strategic situation on the board by the other players, especially maybe Italy, I will show you my diplomacy, my press for this year. So with Italy, I started with this message in which I said, I understand too late that we are enemies in Germany. I didn't expect you to support France. That support really screwed up my stab. Even if we are enemies there, I'm still willing to work with you against Spain if you want. My proposal is basically that we can even fight in the German territories, but at least I won't help against Spain. My hope is that I can lure Italy into attacking Spain, allowing myself to get into the Mediterranean. So even if I lose Berlin, I can take Tunis and take the win anyway. But I underestimated the most important in this Italian player's case flaw, which is cowardice. Since the beginning of the game, he never ever attacked a major power, a stronger or even as strong as him power. He always attacked nations that are weaker or basically dead. like Germany, which was at 2 centers, and France, which was at 4 centers, but only because I was really helping France. And he responded with, "I'm no enemy anywhere." He always said that he was gonna try to not anger anyone in this game. And when I said out loud that we are enemies in Germany, he got scared, I think, and he said, "I'm no enemy anywhere. If you want to take Spain, then you also need a bit of France to annoy them. But if they don't, then fine with supporting you in autumn." So he even offers me support into a center in which denied my enter last turn. And I basically said that I don't think at this point that France is gonna cooperate with me after such a stab. I would need his help against Spain, and he said he'd be interested in taking Spain. Perfect. And I even offered Berlin to him. This is the second time in this game I offer someone a center with no real intention in giving it if I'm not forced to do it. And he even says that let's see in autumn for Berlin. So perfect. Italy basically at this point gets screwed over his own policy of not angering anyone, of basically fearing the largest power instead of facing them with some sort of alliance, and also of taking ideas from basically any players. The Italian motto this game was, "I'm open to all ideas," which is a good way of playing the early game, but I feel like in the mid game and the end game you need to have a strategy, you need to have a clear enemy, and I was clearly gunning for the solo, even though I am only, with air quotes, at 12 centers at this point. I am clearly a solo threat if they don't team up against me, and Italy at this point kind of dropped the ball because of his psychological mindset. After this, I tried to pull the Russian strings, and I wanted to use some sort of other tactic. So I told Russia that I messed up my stab. I'm in a really bad spot. I realize I can't win at this point. So basically, I'm just going for the smallest draw possible. That's a bit of an overstatement. I am talking about this year like I have done some major mistake, while in fact my stab was successful, even though not completely. And I am using my leverage saying that I have been pretty honest and straightforward with him. So I'm using my credibility built up in these 8 years of games to push some buttons and saying that I'm proposing to DMZ Livonia forever while I move a fleet in St. Petersburg, something I know he wants, even though it doesn't make much of a difference. I don't think I will ever take Moscow, army or not army, in St. Petersburg. So I am offering something that doesn't cost me anything, but I know my adversary wants it very badly. And in exchange, I don't want him to help someone else take Berlin, because I stated, "Do you intend to support the Italian scene?" This is another strategy I used. I basically told him that Berlin would go to Italy and not to him. I am using his greed to avoid him supporting someone else in Berlin. And he says, "This sounds pretty good to me, every single point I've made." And he made another threat like he did earlier. In this case, if you stab me, it would be the last stab. I shall head west like geese head south for the winter. Very nice imagery, but it's a pretty empty one, not only because you should expect someone to retaliate if you stab them, but also because I have no reason to stab him. I don't need anyone center from him to win this game, and I can't take any center from him from Moscow to Warsaw to the south. I have no way of attacking Russia for the rest of the game, so that's okay. And I even asked Prussia to support Old Berlin, and he accepted. And I said, St. Petersburg to Norway and Good for Baltic to St. Petersburg are already in, like that's an encouragement. And he said that Even said what the units in Moscow and Warsaw were doing, so a safe bounds. And I said that is very acceptable to me. I used the word acceptable instead of good or any other word because words are important in diplomacy. I'm using acceptable because I don't want to expose to Russia how happy I am that this is all working out because I am really, really ecstatic with my success with Russia and Italy at this point. I am so happy and euphoric because everything is working out. I thought I was screwed and I'm not. So I use acceptable, like it's just barely acceptable, but in reality, I'm ecstatic, as I said. So another player with which I talked was France, and with France I had no hopes of reconciliation, to be honest. I decided to use the best strategy I know in this case, which is to apologize and to acknowledge the stub, something that Chris Martin, who is a great diplomacy player, advises to do. And I said that I'm very sorry. I sincerely apologize for betraying such a long-standing alliance. And he responded in the best way possible. He's such a good sport, this French player. Every player in this game showed a great deal of sportsmanship, but France in particular, I said, the only reason I'm still here is because you helped me, so don't worry about it, which is great, but also this means that that promise of eternal loyalty he made to me some years ago was actually completely true. He's showing his character, and I also with him understated the value of my stab, saying that I felt like it was for nothing, and I complimented the move, the support in Ruhr, so some flattery. And I said, I know it's difficult to forgive such a betrayal, and that's why I won't even try to ask you anything. But if you want to ask me something, please do. I can't guarantee anything, but I can try to redeem myself. That's great, I think. I don't promise anything, I don't ask anything, but if he asks, I will see what I can do. And he said, I mean, can you help me get into a draw? And at this point, this is the first time in all the game, I said, what do you think about becoming my Janissary? And he immediately said, yes, what must I do? I should say that this message came really close to the deadline. As you can see, there's at least a 12-hour gap between these two messages. So I didn't respond in spring, and my moves didn't change, but that's really great. I didn't intend for France to get into a draw, but as a Janissary, I can try my best to let him survive and take the win. And if I can't win without eliminating him, at the end of the game, I would have eliminated him. But that's great. Not even one power in my sphere of influence, Russia, Italy, and France, was hostile to me after this big stab. Incredibly. So my moves were this. I did as I said. A fleet was going to St. Petersburg, the army was going back to Norway, makes no difference to me, and I was support holding everything, while Prussia support held Berlin, and also I went to Picardy. I didn't attack Ruhr, and we can see that Italy has supported Ruhr again. That's worrying. But for now, what can I do? With Picardy, I can cut Burgundy, or I can take Burgundy. I can do another stuff. I can threaten Paris. So Picardy was something I had to do, because now with Roof of Lyon returning to Spain, I have to use both these fleets to contrast with Spain in mid-Atlantic Ocean. Another thing that was really positive, the fleet that was built in Naples went to Ionian Sea. That's great, because at this point I'm calculating that I need to take Gascony, and I will sooner or later take Burgundy and Gascony, but and with a fleet in mid-Atlantic Ocean, I can take Marseille, but only if Italy doesn't move Venice to Piedmont and a couple of fleets in Western Mediterranean and North Africa, because with these Spanish units and this army in Marseille, with another army in Piedmont that supports Marseille and a couple of fleets here, I can't do anything. So the best moves to stop me would have been Naples to Tyrrhenian, Tunis to North Africa, and Venice to Piedmont. But clearly, Italy doesn't trust Russia, so he doesn't want to move to Piedmont and leave Venice open. That's something I have to exploit. And also, he doesn't really see me as the threat I am to come in Spain's rescue, and that's great. So basically, in the autumn, my diplomatic relationships with every power continued. In particular, I spoke with Russia, and with Russia, I basically continued with my negotiations, and now I'm asking even more. I'm asking to move out of Prussia to DMZ Prussia. I know that Russia is a player that enjoys DMZing territories. He was planning in the beginning of the game to DMZ every territory in Scandinavia, so he's clearly a player who values the militarized zones as something really important, and they are. So I'm proposing something that it is something they're familiar with, and he's saying, yeah, let's DMZ Prussia. So basically now Prussia will go away and Berlin will be out of any danger. He said, hopefully Turkey falls soon. And he asked me if he could tap St. Petersburg, and I said no problem at all. I have no problem because I intend to hold St. Petersburg, so that's great. With Italy, I asked, as we could see in the press that I made visible in spring, just not to support hold Ruhr. I said I was gonna take it now. And he said, okay, I want support hold. I didn't even ask for any help in taking Ruhr. Just don't stop me from taking it, and you can do whatever you want with Munich. That's great. And with France, I continued my conversation about Janissary relationships. I said, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to cede one of your centers to me and move southwest? And basically, I asked him to cede Ruhr to me, like I wanted last year, and to move the unit in Burgundy to Gascony while I was moving to Burgundy. Also, moving to Burgundy was a useful thing to do because I was cutting support to Ruhr in case he didn't keep his word. And I wanted him initially to move Ruhr to Burgundy, but then I saw that the best move was for Ruhr to move to Belgium to ensure that my army would get into Burgundy and also destroy completely the Ruhr army. And he wasn't really agreeing with this because probably he thought, why do you want me to attack you? And I insisted, and once again, yeah, and he actually looped in Spain in what we were doing, and I told him that that wasn't a wise move because Spain couldn't interfere, and I didn't want to reveal to the enemy our moves, but I guess he did. Never mind, he told Spain our moves doesn't really matter. So it has passed only 1 year since I stopped France, and we're really beginning to cooperate again. So we were allied. Just I stabbed him brutally, and then we're allied again. That's really great, and that's probably due to some poor diplomatic relationships between France and Spain and France and Italy, because this was probably not the best move for France, but he probably trusted me and decided at this point he was going to be loyal to me no matter what, even if I betrayed him, and that's really great. And this was the first meme I created for this game, and every other meme came after this, and I decided more or less at this point I was going to make a YouTube series about this game. So everything is going really great, beyond my best expectations, and yeah, everything worked. I took Ruhr. Russia is even moving away from me to take on the Turkish player. Austria is eliminated. Italy is moving to Tyrrhenian, to Western Mediterranean, to North Africa, to Piedmont. That's really great. So Italy doesn't want to help Spain for some reason. The only mishap that happened this turn was the move from the French unit that was in Ruhr. Basically, he moved to Burgundy, as I asked before, and didn't update his order to move to Belgium. This meant that I was impeded from moving to Burgundy, and that's not good. So, thanks to this move, Italy now has another turn to decide to move Venice to Piedmont, and with this move, coupled with some fleets going west from Italy, I couldn't really take any of the Spanish centers, and this meant that I would be stuck at 15 and I would be forced to draw with Spain and probably Russia and Italy. And that's not great after all this effort, a four-way draw, even if it is a four-way draw with in a game with 11 powers. So this move really screwed me over. I know it was a mistake, but nevertheless, I was really angry at this move because it meant that my game was in danger. With the Russian army in Trieste supporting Venice, I should assume that Russia and Italy are in favorable diplomatic relations, and this means that Italy has any incentive to move to Piedmont, and with Piedmont supporting Marseille, I can't take Marseille, I can't take Spain because Portugal is supporting Spain, and I can't take Portugal, and the only hope is going to North Africa and Western Mediterranean to Somo, but with Italy right on my doorstep, I don't know if I can do it. So yeah, that's really problematic, but nevertheless, this turn could have gone much worse. So yeah, this turn went great, even though there was a little mishap, but no matter. Yeah, France is really not really that attentive to the orders, but I can only at that time I was pissed off at this. But how can I accuse a player that has forgiven me after I stabbed him? So yeah, but at this point I started thinking about eliminating France because I can't afford at this point this kind of mistakes with my solo on the line. So, but kudos for France for his good sportsmanship in realigning to me after I stabbed him. Yeah, so this was 1908, a very crucial year diplomatically, and I hope I did a good job at summarizing it because it was a very complex year. And we'll see you in 1909 when the real end game begins.